Hello friends! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Natalie. I am the artist and owner of NMC Design Studio, which is a small art business based out of Seattle, Washington. Today we're going to be doing another video in the series called Art Talks, where I tell you about what inspired a piece of artwork and kind of the story behind it and how I made it, all that jazz. And for this one, we're actually going to be talking about two pieces of art that are kind of related, but like kind of not. So we're going to be talking about my Orchards print and my Mount Si print. These were actually the very first two block prints that I ever did for my art business. Technically not the first two block prints I ever did in my entire life. My very first two linoleum block prints that I ever did were in high school for high school art. And if I can find pictures of one of them that I did, I'll show you here. The other one that was a reduction linoleum block print, I am pretty certain I don't have any pictures of, unfortunately. But back to these prints. The reason that I actually did these prints and started getting back into block printing is because I wanted to start doing artwork again. And I actually did my very first art market right before COVID-19 lockdown. So I did it at the beginning of March in 2020. Actually, I think I might have lied to you just now and when I said that these were the first two block prints I did, because I remember for that, I don't think I had these block prints, but I had little mini block printed stickers that I just block printed onto label paper and cut out by hand. And I'm not remembering if I had these prints specifically or not. I don't think I did. So anyways, these were the first prints, block printed prints I did for my art shop, but I don't think they were the first block prints I did, if that makes sense. But after a little bit of being in COVID lockdown, I was following the UW Printmaking Association on Instagram. So the UW Printmaking Association is a club at UW Seattle, and they do printmaking of all varieties. And I actually wasn't a part of this club during school, while I was in school, because I had no time. But I did pick up my love for printmaking during college. So I knew of the existence of this club, and I had gone to a few of their print sales previously, but had never actually participated myself. And during COVID, they opened it up to alumni to participate, and they did an online sale. So I actually created these two prints to be a part of that online sale. So Orchards was the first one that I did, and it's inspired by my childhood spending time in Penticton, British Columbia. And usually when I describe Penticton, because you think British Columbia and you think Vancouver, BC, forests, mountains, kind of similar to Seattle. But like Washington, they also have an eastern side that is much more similar in climate to Eastern Washington. And that's where Penticton is. So think hotter, drier, more desert-esque. Still has evergreens and stuff like Eastern Washington does. Definitely more brown, orange, green than just green and blue. But the reason that we went there a lot is because my grandparents actually live there, and we would go up in the summertime, sometimes in the winter time for Christmas, but not as often. But usually summers we would go up there and visit them. And I think that Penticton is the best in the summertime. It's on a little sliver of land that's right in between two lakes. So summertime, it's hot. You have two lakes to choose from because of this. There's a lot of ice cream that you can choose from as well, which is always great. And the other thing about the area around Penticton, which generally is called the Okanagan Valley. I want to say it's a valley, but I could be wrong. Is that there is a lot of produce, because a lot of fruit orchards and things like that in the area. Again, kind of similar to Eastern Washington. So there's various orchards and things around. So there's always a lot of fresh fruit and just general produce. One of my favorite places, I say one of because there's a couple, but one of my favorite places that isn't actually in Penticton but is very near is Summerland Sweets, which is a place that does fruit syrups, the kind of syrup that you would put on pancakes or waffles, as well as like jams and jellies and things like that. But their fruit syrups are the best ever. They're expensive to ship, so usually if like one of my parents is going up, I like, can you bring me back some syrup? Because it's so good. My favorite is the apricot and peach, but they're all good. So if you ever find yourself in the area of Penticton, go visit Summerland Sweets because they are the best fruit syrups ever. And then my other favorite place in Penticton is a little used bookstore that's like in the downtown area of Penticton. We would always go whenever we visited, and I feel like it's just like the epitome of used bookstore with like secret little back corners and books piled on the floor and in boxes on the floor because there's no more shelf room, and it's just a great bookstore. I think I still have a good amount of books that I have bought from there. But like just generally, like not my memories, but Penticton is known for kind of two things. Like I said, it's in the Okanagan, I think it's called Okanagan Valley, but it's in the Okanagan area. One of the lakes is called the Okanagan, and that area is known for wines. I got my fiance a wine book that just like talks about different wines and different areas for wines, like Europe, US, etc. And the Okanagan Valley is actually mentioned in that book. So like it's not just a me visiting and like hearing random things, like it is known for wine. And then the other thing it's known for is for the last, I don't know how long time, I believe it was the host of the Ironman race for Canada. And I actually looked it up because I was like, I want to make sure I'm getting the name right. And it seems like actually 2024 was the last year that they were the host of the race. And for this year, 2025 and on, they're moving the race to Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. But prior to this year, they were the host for the Ironman race. And I think that's what a lot of people knew the city for, because I don't really know why else you would go to Penticton. I mean, good lake, good food. But so Penticton has a lot of like a good childhood memories for me. And I just always think of like summertime and swimming in the lakes, ice cream, and sitting out on my grandparents' porch that overlooks like the whole valley because it's up on one of the sides. So you can see like the whole city and both of the lakes, and it's great. But that was the inspiration behind the Orchards block print. It's a view that's kind of similar to like what you would see from my grandparents, where you have the orchards in front of you. You can see the city, and I believe in the print it's one of the lakes. And then building off of that, I was kind of thinking of like, I think I want my other block print to also be a space or like a place that means a lot to me. And I chose where I grew up, which is North Bend. And the Mount Si print is specifically a view from downtown North Bend looking towards the mountain, Mount Si. And I don't have any like specific sentimental value for like the view that I chose to carve and print, but I think it is something of like anywhere in where I grew up, you could always see Mount Si. And it feels like it's just like such a core part of people who live there's personality almost, like the mountain. It's like the fact if you are living in Seattle or have been in Seattle for a while, you just know what people mean when they say that the mountain is out, right? In North Bend, it's the fact that there just is a mountain, and like we're so lucky that we get this view all the time. Like that's not an exact one-to-one same experience, but it kind of is similar. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I feel like I'm gonna have to edit this to make my sentences make more sense. But it's kind of that thing of just like, you don't really get it if you don't live there or aren't a part of that community almost. So for that print, I definitely wanted to include Mount Si in the frame. One of the most like recognizable areas of North Bend I felt like was downtown, and that's part of the reason that I chose it. It is a little funny though, because while North Bend, I guess, kind of meant a lot to me, like I grew up there. I went through all of like elementary to high school living there. I never really spent that much time in downtown, and like downtown doesn't hold like a special place in my heart or anything. I just felt like it was the most recognizable, and honestly we didn't spend that much time like in that main street downtown strip. I think the only time we really were there was we went a few times. There was a bakery on that street that we went to a few times, and I think I went a couple more times in high school because there was a coffee shop a little bit further down the road that I would go to occasionally. But other than that, yeah, we really didn't spend that much time in like that little downtown strip, which is very silly. A little bit about the process, about how these two prints are made. So they're both linoleum block prints, and if you aren't aware, linoleum block prints are essentially really big stamps. So you get a block of linoleum or a rectangle square of linoleum. There's various ways that you can transfer your design onto it, but you carve the linoleum. So anywhere that you carve is where the ink will not be on the print, and the areas that you leave end up being raised like a stamp, so that when you put ink on the block, only the areas that are not carved or that are still raised up get ink on them. And so then when you put the paper on top, those parts will transfer the ink to the paper. I'll be honest, I don't know what the difference really is between like a linoleum block print and like a rubber stamp, because I guess in my mind, like stamps are usually smaller, but other than that, I don't really know what the difference is. I'm sure there is a difference. If you know, if you're also a printmaker, let me know in the comments. I just haven't bothered to look it up because I don't care that much. But one of the other things that I did special with these prints is I wanted to add color to these prints, but I absolutely suck at registration, which is the printmaking term. I don't know if it's other art term as well, but for lining up prints, because when you do multicolor prints, you have to make sure that they line up. Because if you print layer one, let's say that what's a good example? Let's say I'm printing a picture frame, right? Like this. So if I was to print the outer frame in black, that would be one layer. And then I want to print the art piece, we're just going to simplify and say it's just going to be a solid color. We're going to simplify and say that the art piece is a solid red, right? So if I'm just rolling on ink to a block, I can't do this in one block. I'm going to have to separate it into two so that I can do the two different colors. So I'm going to do my black layer first, and I'm going to print that onto a piece of paper. And when I go to print my red layer, that inside like picture piece, I need to make sure that it lines up inside of my black piece, right? If it is off a little bit, I could end up putting my red like on top of the black border. I could just also look off center a little bit, and the lining up process is called registration. So I believe there are some tools that can help you with registration, but it's something that I definitely struggle with, and thus it is hard to add multiple colors to my printed pieces. So the way I got around that actually is I decided that I wanted to try adding watercolor underneath my printed pieces. So I would do like a watercolor wash, and then I would print on top of that. And I think I played around with it. I did some that were printed on top and some where I did the watercolor afterwards. And I believe I ended up liking the watercolor afterwards more because I could kind of control where the watercolor was showing and where it wasn't, versus if I did it before, it was kind of a guessing game of where the printed art would actually end up on the page. And so sometimes the watercolor would look like too large or too small, and it would just look a little silly. So nowadays, I definitely do the watercolor afterwards. So adding that watercolor wash underneath my original Mount Si and Orchards prints led to me doing multicolor, like watercolor prints with some of my Seattle neighborhood prints, where I would maybe color in the trees green or add a little bit of red here, a little bit of like tan or yellowy here, add blue to the water, but only in like very small parts of the print. But the watercolor washes were kind of like the first iteration of doing that, and I still do really like them. My favorite colors for each of them, I definitely like the like rusty orange brown for the orchards print, just because it reminds me of like what the dirt and the mountains there look like, because again, it is like Eastern Washington where it's very brown. And then for Mount Si, I like the green watercolor wash the most, because it reminds me of the evergreens that are all around there. If you're driving through North Bend, you're on your way to like Snoqualmie Pass and the Cascade Mountains. And so it's like very, very green and like heavily forested in that area. And so the green just reminds me of the trees. Really what I'm saying is my least favorite is the blue in each of those, because I added blue for both. I believe I added the blue because someone specifically requested it, and I don't hate it. Like, it reminds me of the sky in both of them, and there's a good amount of sky in both of them. It's just not my favorite. Like, it isn't what I think of when I think of either of those two landscapes. But that is it for this video. Thank you for watching, and thank you to my Ko-fi subscribers for supporting me. If you are interested in supporting me further, you can subscribe to me on Ko-fi for $1 a month to get monthly sketchbooks and behind the scenes content, as well as your name in this video. Or you can subscribe for $3 a month to get all of that, plus access to monthly digital backgrounds for desktop and mobile. If you enjoyed watching the video, I would love if you would consider subscribing. I post videos every Monday about my artwork, as well as what it's like running a small art business. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!